Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. Today's episode is all about expandable Broadheads. Those are cool. Let me show you their features. First, this is a regular field tip. So, of course, since this is a quality arrow, you can remove it. It has a standard threading. Weighs about 100 grains, so it's about 7 grams or so. So, and you can exchange this against any other type. This is really only for practice. It's not recommended to hunt with it, of course only where legal anyway, but because this will definitely kill someone, but it just doesn't cut a large diameter into the wound of the game, and therefore it will cause unnecessary suffering. Normally you shoot a broadhead, like a hunting broadhead that has blades, but a lot of people don't like it very much because the wider the blades, the more of a tendency you get that the arrow will actually be steered by the tip. So because it of course creates air resistance and all kinds of turbulences and so on. So really big broadheads tend to be not as accurate, specifically over longer distances. That is why a lot of people love expandable broadheads, like these two models that I picked for you. This is actually one that I think you can still get like from AliExpress and so on. I like it because I've been using it for many years now and it still is alive. Well, some colleagues of it didn't do so well. In any case, it works like a charm because, you see, the diameter is really slim. It's slim enough that you can even put it into the Fenris bow, which has a stackable arrow magazine. So therefore, I don't think that this will steer the arrow at all. But if it hits the target, these blades pop out and they actually stay in place because they have these little springs that actually lock it. So it's a very clever contraption. I really like it. And of course it is a little bit, well, cumbersome and even a little bit scary to collapse the blades again because you have to lift these springs and then get it back into place. As I said, it's also a little bit heavier. As you see, it's longer and therefore there's more weight to it. It has a mean tip here. I think this is a really mean tip. So all in all, I think it's a fairly effective collapsible broadhead, but newer models look different and they're also cheaper. So this is a newer model. It's more simple because basically, first of all, the blades aren't fixed and they won't lock in place. They're simply secured by a rubber band that will automatically slip off once you hit something like so. And then when you push this in, these blades will actually fold. Just because the arrow keeps pushing, they will fold fairly wide. So this is like the cutting diameter. It's a lot wider than the one from the first collapsible broadhead that I demonstrated to you. It's also, you see, these blades are not really large. They're fairly thin. And that is so the whole thing can stay lightweight. I can pull this out again here and then they will collapse and I could re-secure the rubber band if I want to, like so. So this has the same 100 grains as a normal field tip, and therefore the flight characteristics will be almost the same. The diameter is a little larger than the first one, so this would not be slim enough to fit into the Fenris bow. It's just not for magazine bows. I think there's only one model on the market anyway, so for a lot of people it won't be a big disadvantage. But of course, it would also mean that it will steer the arrow a little more than a field tip. I'm not sure if that really makes a difference. I don't really think so, but still it's a disadvantage. They're fairly cheap and you can get them on Amazon. They're no doubts made in China, but today many good quality products are made in China, including my iPhone. So we want to see how well they actually work in the flesh of game. And therefore we prepared ballistic gelatin, what else, 1 block each, to see how they expand and what kind of a wound canal they actually cut. And here is ballistic gelatin. I have 2 blocks, 1 per arrow. Of course it's only original with the hand slap and plenty of in it. For our tests we will use the FX Airguns Indie Arrow as a test device because I love that one. We actually have given it to the BKA, the highest ranking German gun authority, since normal arrow guns will become regulated in Germany starting from the 1st of September. There's only very few pieces left, so if you want one and you live in Germany, then hurry. Go to gogun.de to find more. But this one actually can only be operated by muscle power. So you cannot connect a compressor or something. The only way how to fit it up is use the embedded pump. With one full tank you can actually do about 4 shots at full power, and that is about 100 joule, means about 80 foot-pounds of energy. So pretty powerful, super accurate. And of course also you only have to pump like 10 times per shot. And this makes sense because a normal air gun has about 10 joules, in Germany actually only 7.5. And it would be sufficient to just pump 1 time. But if you want 10 times the power, you have to pump 10 times more often. Anyway, it is called Indie because it's completely independent from a bottle, from a compressor and so on. You can just pump it up in sitting position just very easily. I love every bit of it. It of course has a pressure gauge, everything on it, and its bullpup design is very, very, very compact. So you see it's just the arrow and then pretty much nothing else. I love it. Okay, we will first start with this model, and let's see what happens when we fire it into the ballistic gelatin. And we're gonna do this from very close distance to avoid all risks of not hitting it right. Clearly this created a very large wound canal, but you can also see, let me get this out here, you can also see that actually the wings folded over, and it will be interesting to see in the high speed if that happened after or before it penetrated through the ballistic gelatin block. But of course it's quite a diameter, a cutting diameter, and you can clearly see this here. You can clearly see how much damage it's caused, and also you can see the wound canal in the ballistic gelatin. So that was definitely a devastating blow, and if you look closely you can actually see that they folded up, so the wound canal was getting larger once the thing entered the wound canal here. Very interesting observation, I think, because these here could also well be from the fletching. Now we will use the other Broadhead. It has a more slim profile, and of course it's also fairly old, but let's see how this fares. Whoa, it went all the way through. I hope I can retrieve the arrow. I found the arrow. It was actually only flying another maybe 3 or 4 meters, and then it fell to the ground, so it was almost spent the energy, but still impressive result. The Broadhead is fully intact, and also the blades are fully exposed. So now of course I can fold them back in and simply reuse the whole device. Not a problem. So this one survived as well. So if I look at the block, I think you can clearly see that this also has this triangular mark, but that may well be from the veins because it fully penetrated. Yeah, and I think that it's clear that the damage isn't as large as the one from the other Broadhead. Interesting. Here we can see the two in direct comparison, and I think it is absolutely clear that the newer Broadhead has definitely left the much larger wound canal and the much larger exit wound. This is very tiny, and this is really significant. So now we will shoot from a typical hunting distance. It's in this case 12 meters, which is how much, I don't know, 13.5 yards, something like that. And I will fire both arrows from that distance and see if I can hit it. Normally with a field tip that would be right in the middle of the target, and we're going to use our gelatin blocks, two behind each other, see if they can penetrate both. Super accurate. Was a fairly good hit, I think. And as you can see, the broadhead, of course, fully expanded. It didn't go all the way through, but almost through both blocks. Impressive wound canal. Yeah, two dead animals standing behind each other. The broadhead is still fully functional, just a little bit jellified. Now we're testing the other one, and of course we hope for the same kind of accuracy. This one came in a little bit high, and that is probably me, because all I'm using is a red dot, not even a scope, so there's no magnification. But also maybe because the tip is lighter. As you see, it fully expanded, and you can also see here you can see that it was actually over collapsing a little bit. Can you see that? The wound canal was wider here and then closes in the second block. Interesting. But of course in the first block it was still fully opened. So it caused a major amount of damage. It went all through, but of course it hit it at a higher position, so the amount of gelatin that it had to penetrate was less, and therefore I think penetration is about the same. The tip survived, but the O-ring this time is away, so probably was torn apart. Easy to replace. So these two broadheads in comparison, well, I like both of them. This one has the advantage that you can use it in a device like the Fenris bow, because it's now stackable, while this one, even in close condition, it actually has too wide of a diameter in close condition. This also means that it has precision disadvantages, since it will still somehow steer the arrow, not as much as a full broadhead, but you know, a little bit of that. And but on the other hand, it is lighter, so it's as light as a typical field tip. So this won't have any negative influence on the ballistic curve of the arrow. All in all, because this clearly created more damage, this is my favorite. So I can recommend it because it's also very affordable and you can get it on Amazon. Link down below. So, the episode about collapsible broadheads. I hope you liked it, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye-bye. Quite interesting. Just from the stabbing, both broadheads expanded and left a very significant wound canal into the poor blocks.